Shall we?
Yo, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the Release the Snyder Cut Roundtable. This is episode 2. I am your host, the infamous Prime. And I got some lovely gentlemen on the panel that is actually in the Snyder movement, and we are coming together. Now, mind you, we are all meeting each other for the very first time. We're going to talk about some good stuff, but the good thing about this, ladies and gentlemen, and about this roundtable, we all coming together because we have one goal and one thing that we all have one in common. Release the Snyder Cut, and we are all Zack Snyder fans. So I'm going to shut my mouth. I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves thoroughly on this panel. So whoever want to take them, matter of fact, I'm just going to call y'all by name, and y'all let the people know who you are. Go ahead, Mr. Steve Kassan. Tell people what you're about, my brother.
As my man said, I am Steve Kassan. I am an actor from Toronto. That's my handle at Retrograde Prod. And we are Snyder Cut Movement. We are this movement for Zack, and we want to see release the Snyder Cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Take it to the next one.
Yeah, no doubt. Got the next man on the panel. We got my man Eddie. Tell the people where you're from, what you're about, Eddie, what you like to do, go so forth. You got the mic.
All right, I'm Eddie. I'm from Chicago. Been a fan of Zack since Dawn of the Dead, basically. I'm in it just to see the original version of this movie, and I want to be a director someday. I mean, these guys seem like they have a better a resume than I do. I made like one short film last summer, but that's it. But that's what I would like to do.
No doubt. Next one we got on the panel, man, we got Ethan. He's in the building. Tell him about yourself, Ethan. Let the people know what you're about.
Hey, what's up? I'm Ethan. I'm from Alberta. I'm a musician, and I'm in this to see Zack's original cut of Justice League.
No doubt. Next one we got on the panel, I got my man Drew is in the building. Tell the people about him.
What's up, guys? This is Andrew Schroyer. I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've been a Snyder fan. I would say definitely since Dawn of the Dead. I love Dawn of the Dead, and then I've been a hugely inspired by Snyder since Batman vs Superman, and I've ironically been a Snyder Cut supporter since really day one. Like, I saw Justice League the day that it was released, and I heard about the Snyder Cut the day after I saw it. So I've really been, a part of the community, even as small as we were back then, since day one. And it's great that we're, an organized community. I'm glad to have this discussion.
No doubt. And last who we got on the panel down the line, we got my man Robby. Tell the people about yourself, my brother.
Well, my name's Robby Monroe. I'm a director from Girdwood, Alaska. I've been a fan of Zack's since 300. That film, I think, single-handedly catapulted me into and through puberty. So, I owe it my manhood, I guess. But I'm in the movement, not just to see his original vision, but also because as an artist and filmmaker myself, I want that precedent set for artist integrity. I want the studios to respect the artist, because I don't want that, to happen to other artists. And I mean, gosh, of course I want to see Zack's vision. I want to see the movie that we were promised in the trailers, not the one that they gave us in the cinemas. It's infuriating to watch.
No doubt. Well, last but not least, I said Robby was the last. Actually, I am the last. Well, my name is Prime. My nickname is called The Godfather. I work for EA Sports. That's what I work for. I am an EA game changer. What I do is that I am basically an influencer, plus a very big basketball advocate of just basketball and gaming, just sports all in general. And I got into the actual, and I reside in Cleveland, Ohio. So for the ones that don't know, that's the land. So I started getting into the Snyder Cut movement right after, well, actually it was a couple of months right after Justice League was released. And I saw everybody was really talking about it. And, with me knowing so much about the movie industry and how it, what it all entails, I just said, you know, Zach was, you know, really got played, you know, and I really wanted to support that and let it go from there. And it's really, really good that there are a lot of people, not just myself, that have the same interest, that really, really want to see his vision coming to fruition, because there's a lot of stuff that went down that we did not like. And it's fair for us as the fans to get that proper material that he was trying to give to us, the fans. So that's me. So, but what I want to let everybody know and talk about, since we're going to be talking about Zack, what is the main thing about Zack? What is it about Zack Snyder, in your estimation, that makes him who he is? What makes him gravitate to him, as not only just as a director and a person, but what's some besides that, or is that the main thing? What is it about Zack that gravitates? What about him makes you gravitate to him? Anybody can take the reign on that.
Let me just speak on this just for a bit. Is that my first introduction to Zack was Dawn of the Dead, like everyone else. An interesting story, because it was filmed in close to Toronto. I got to do as a one-day extra on the movie. Now this is like back then, nobody knew what Zack was, but it was in the extras when all the extras are going to the mall and everything like that. So again, back then nobody knew. So then later on, I see 300 and see all these other movies, but then I got into, I guess, into liking Zack, or standing up for Zack, I would say, like all we're doing after MOS and BVS. And I think really, if you think about it, everything, all the backlash on BVS, I guess that's the genesis of the Snyder Cut movement, because we all banded together. It's like, why is everyone like bashing this movie? And it's through that movie, and when you analyze it and everything, is that you see Zack's passion, and we get to know, like, as Zack reveals more of himself and through Vero and everything, and you understand what kind of person he is. And and I haven't met the man, but if we were to take everything that he posts and his work and his art, we understand he's a genuine person and a genuine filmmaker, and he puts his heart into it. And also, you don't have to be a filmmaker or an artist to put your heart into anything. Anything you do, you put your heart into it. And that's what gravitated me towards Zack. It's like, don't compromise. If you believe what's right in what you're doing, do it to the most 100. And that's what really made me stand for Zack and his ideology and his work and his art. So that's my piece.
I mean, yeah, going back to what I said about me being a big fan of since Dawn of the Dead, I actually do remember ditching school to watch it, because Comcast had that 10-minute preview that they had on demand, and I watched a 10-minute preview for that. And I'm like, I'm not going to school. I'm just going to watch this movie. And I bought it without my mom knowing. And then you know, and not only that, since most of his movies are like adaptations of other work or something, it always brought me back to the original work. Like Dawn of the Dead made me watch the original Dawn of the Dead. 300 made me buy a book about Spartans. You know, read the original Watchmen before Watchmen came out. Read a bunch of Superman comics before Man of Steel came out. And then that made me a huge Superman fan. Like he like jumped up to my favorite at that point. And I don't know, I think I'm a big action. Like I love action movies, and just the way he films action scenes, like it's something I would like the way he did it, or the way he does it is nothing like a lot of Hollywood action filmmakers do it. Like maybe like, you know, the guys who did John Wick, they're really good at like they're probably like the next, you know, Hollywood action go-to guys. But for him, like when I saw that Smallville fight in Man of Steel in theaters the first time, I like my jaw dropped. I was like, this is how I would film an action scene with Superman. Like no fuck, like there's absolutely no way. And I don't know, like me and Zach actually share a birthday. So like it was actually kind of crazy, because like I was 25 when BVS came out and he was 50, so it was like actually like the exact half mark, and I was just like, oh man, this is crazy. So like I've just always been like, I don't know, I just always love the way he films action scenes, like his color palette, just like the images that he would show. And you know, people hate on him for the slow motion, but I feel like that's just the way he wants people to see his images that he made. Like he really wants people to see all that detail for the most part. So yeah, that's me.
No doubt, no doubt. Rob, what about yourself?
Well, obviously, watching Zach's movies, it's invigorating, right? Um, and when I was young, whenever I first got into Zach, that's what really drew me to him. And I was always a fan of his work. I mean, to the point where I was like proselytizing people to BVS, you know, and getting into arguments with people I didn't know when they said, "Oh yeah, DC sucks." I'm like, "How dare you?" And have you even watched the same movie? But it wasn't until I met that I realized that I found out, I guess, that all the way through film school, I was, you know, basically told, you know, my approach to filmmaking is not how you do it. Don't do it like that, Robby. Stop it. Stop it. Like I can't. What I'll do is I'll write a script and I'll make it super detailed, and then I go and I draw every single frame. And I'm like, just the script is for the dialogue. Just look at my pictures. Do this. And you know, my professors they hated me for it. Stop that, Robby. Just do what we tell you. Just do. I can't do that. And then when I met Zach, and then you know, he was telling me how he makes movies, and I was like, I'm not alone. And not only am I not alone, the best filmmaker in the world does it the way that I do it. Like, this is fantastic. So yeah, I got to hang out with him during the cocktail party before the Snyder Con. That was super cool. And I actually have the same name as Debbie's dad, she told me. So that's kind of interesting.
No doubt, no doubt. Next, we got my man Drew.
All right, so like I said, I really have been a huge Snyder fan since BVS, and the thing that really drew me into Snyder is, of course, the visual style and his color palette. But like for me, like and this is a thing that really inspired my work. I'm actually studying, or going to be studying in the upcoming semester, psychology, and dealing with you know, because Snyder's hugely inspired by Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung. He has the Joseph Campbell quote on the back of his All the Gods shirt. And just really the aspect that fascinates me most about Snyder is the way that he doesn't just, like, it's not just a comic book movie when we're watching it. It's a movie that's dealing with the real joys, and I don't think he gets enough credit for talking about, there's genuine joy in his work, and especially like the ending, you know, that the hope that comes from this. But also he really does talk about like real actual shadow work, like the real darkness of humanity, and he doesn't shy away from either one. And through that, like, these characters grow, and the themes that are interwoven there, and his just the visual symbols and metaphors that he puts in his movies. It's just so complex. Like, I've watched BVS. I mean, I don't know how many times. I just watched it for probably the 5th or 6th time already this year, the other 2 days ago. And I pick up on new things every single time I watch it. Like, there's new things to always pick up on, like, you know, just in certain scenes, I'm just like, man, this is truly, like, that's filmmaking at its best. Like, that's what filmmaking is supposed to be. And yeah, it's just amazing. Like, you know, that's what's inspiring my my graduate work. So that's definitely that's why I'm looking forward to what he continues to do with those themes and everything that he builds in BVS for the Snyder Cut.
No doubt, no doubt. Next, we got on the panel, we got Ethan.
Yeah, so Zach's really appealing to me because he's got like an honesty to his work. Everything that he does, you can see that he has a clear goal and a vision with what he's creating, and when he executes, he just executes so well. You know what I mean? Aside from that, I'm a musician. I'm in school studying to be a composer. And my favorite quote about any composition in film is when Zach said that he likes to use sound as a weapon. I think that sums it up perfectly. and what composing for film is supposed to be about. So for me, there's a lot of that in Zach's filmmaking, and it's really appealing. But then somebody else mentioned something about the fact that he doesn't shy away from darkness or joy in his films, right? And I've always really appreciated the idea that you need the dark to make the light mean anything. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when Zach creates a movie like BVS and he's got these dark, deep themes, and then afterwards he turns a character who said at the beginning of the film, what falls is fallen, and that character is saying men are still good by the end. It makes that mean so much more. It doesn't just feel like a line, it feels like I'm really traveling on this like roller coaster. And I think that's really amazing.
No doubt, no
Oh
doubt.
yeah.
Myself, I got introduced to Zach when I first saw 300. When I first saw 300, it was just the actual presentation as a whole, because it looked at so much of like a graphic novel when it was presented. Not only that, but it was more of just the seriousness of it and the way that the story was told as well. And then right after 300, then that's when I got into Watchmen, and so forth. And then I started becoming a Zack Snyder fan. I didn't see Dawn of the Dead till like later down the line, but 300 was my very, very first one. And then once I found out right after Sucker Punch, right after he did that, and I found out that Man of Steel was coming out. Now, mind you, once he got appointed to be director for that, I was like, I already know it's going to be dope. Already know it is, just because of his vision, just because of his visual outlook on things. Because the way that he presents things is just so absolutely fantastic. And that's when I became a full Zack Snyder fan. And just understanding exactly how his mind works, what he brings forth to the table. And a lot of people, and it's pretty much is that he does things that people are not ready for. I think that his vision and things that he does mainly is just, people don't take this in the wrong way, but I think it's more for intellectuals. I don't think more people that are just a general audience, they're not really going to pick up on his material because they're not ready for it. If you're not the type of person to just sit there and just want to think and really let your mind just put the pieces together, then his material is not going to be for you, because it's going to be complex. And he's going to show you things in his movies, in his material, not just visually, but also with the verbiage as well. You're going to have to pick it up, and it all comes together. So just with him just being a director and the way that he does things, it's just absolutely fantastic. And I could tell right after BVS, I could really tell that there were certain things when I first saw it. I could tell that this really wasn't his movie fleshed fully out, because it just didn't add up in certain elements. Not saying that it wasn't okay at the time, because it was. But once his real version came out, once the Ultimate Edition was introduced, then that's when we fully got the full element of his vision when it came down to BVS. So just Zack Snyder as a whole, he's one of my favorite directors as a whole. I really only have like 3 directors that I like. Zack is one, Tarantino, and Scorsese. Those are my 3 favorite directors. So I mean, when it comes down to that, a lot of people, they're just not ready for that type of material. And when it comes down to Man of Steel, and when it comes down to BVS, and just the way that he was going to do the universe, or how he was going to project it, and what he was going to do, it was finally about time where the cheese element was getting rid of. We didn't need that. We needed something that was real concrete, something that not only is going to make you think, also it puts a different element to the characters that was presented in the comics as a whole. So I just like the way that he just did everything. It's not just Zack as well, but it's just his outlook on things and the way that he wants to present it. And just people just don't want to, pick it up as a whole. So that's my thing when it comes down to Zack Snyder. So let's go ahead and get to some other stuff. with it. Now, when it came down to the Release the Snyder Cut movement, and I know a lot of y'all, when y'all first started and when y'all got introduced to it, the first, how could I say, the first like event or the first element of putting everything together, what was your outlook at it at the beginning? Did you think that it wasn't going to last? Did y'all feel that it was going to build? Did y'all think that it was going to get to the point where it is now? Or was it going to fade out? Let's go ahead. We're going to go around and start. Ethan, what about you? How did you feel? Did you know it was going to get to this status?
This is interesting.
Or did you feel that it was just going to fade out? I want to hear your outlook.
Well, I actually I watched Justice League in December 2017, and I was at my job, and I was talking to a coworker about the movie, and I was like, "Yeah, I was really underwhelmed. It didn't feel like BVS. BVS is my favorite movie. I wanted it to be like that." And he says to me, "Yeah, I mean, did you hear about any of the stuff that happened behind the scenes?" And I was like, "No, I didn't hear about any of that." And he said, like, yes, Snyder's vision wasn't completed. So he was actually in to release the Snyder Cut before I was. And at first I was like, yeah, well, you know, whatever. You know, like, I mean, the movie's like a 6 out of 10, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking that this wasn't really a huge deal and that this was kind of an isolated thing that he thought of. And then I got exposed to the movement on Instagram during SDCC 2018. People were handing out flyers and I saw pictures of it and stuff like that. So that's when I started to pay attention. I found Fiona Zhang, and I sort of looked into the For Snyder Cut website, and I started to read up on some of the post-production tragedies and all of that stuff. And I kind of fell in love with it, and I've been here ever since. But I certainly didn't think that we were going to get like #1 worldwide trending on the 17th or anything like that. God, no.
No doubt. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go with Drew. What about you? How did you feel about it? Did you what was your outlook at it when it first started and where it is today? What is your outlook on that?
Yeah, I was always cautiously like optimistic because I just thought like, okay, there's a lot of people that are saying these things, but it almost felt like the studio wasn't, or Warner Brothers in general wasn't really, taking it too seriously. They probably just thought it was just, this small group of people who wanted it. Maybe, 5-10 years down the line, we might have gotten it, but I definitely knew that we were going to get something after what he just mentioned last November when we got 1.2 million people trending and Zack Snyder came back on Twitter and Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot and everything like that. Like when that happened, like I knew like something they either know something that we don't, or they really think there is a chance and they're chiming in. And I just like that. Just like Ben Affleck's always been one of my favorite actors, and I'm a '90s kid through and through. So I grew up with Armageddon and different movies like that, and watching him, Good Will Hunting, and I just that just gave me even more respect for him and Gal Gadot. I knew that I could that she was always great too. And since then, I've really been excited because I just was like, yeah, something definitely. And there just has been something substantially different. It's almost like we've been getting these cues, like different people from HBO and things liking different Snyder Cut tweets and stuff. So that's something that makes me even more optimistic that we're going to see something sooner rather than later. I don't know how soon, especially because of this pandemic that we're having, that it probably pushed things back for quite a while, but it's just one of those things where I definitely think we're going to get something within the next year or so. I think it's coming soon, and I'm just super excited. It can't come fast enough.
No doubt. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go with Rob.
Well, for me, with the Snyder Cut movement, I I didn't know that it was a movement at first. When I first started kind of pestering my friends about it, it was I think June of 2017, and I heard that the Joss Whedon was coming in to do some reshoots, and I told all of my friends, like, this is going to be a disaster. You know, this is the guy that did the Avengers, one of the most boring blockbusters ever. I was like,
I liked it.
how is this guy going to come in and realize Snyder's vision? I mean, this guy is just cornball through and through, and so I'm like worried about it, and my friends are no, it's going to be fine. He's a good director. He's not going to be able to do it. He's not going to. And then I went to go see the film, and the people I went with were like, "That was really good," and I was like, "What? Did we watch the same movie? What are you talking about?" And I had already seen, in when it came out, the Donner cut of Superman 2. And as soon as they announced Joss Whedon was coming in to do reshoots, I was like, here we go again. I'm gonna be sitting here waiting for the studio to release a director's cut of Justice League, because they did it with BVS, and now I'll go see it. And so I was really frustrated, and then I found out that I wasn't alone. Shortly after the film came out, because I was like, there's got to be something more, and that's when I found the website, and I didn't join Twitter until sometime last summer, I think, just because Twitter is just not something that I do. I'm not really on social media too much, but I got on Twitter just to see kind of what was going on, and then I saw the hashtag trending, and I was okay. This is great, and not to talk too much. I'm sorry, but
talk away.
I've lost 3 friends to suicide. Whenever I found out that the movement was actually doing something for that too, I was, how can I not? I mean, not only am I supporting artist integrity, not only am I supporting a vision from my favorite director, making a movie about my favorite superhero, which is, Superman. I mean, we're doing actual good in the world. How can I not get behind this? And so, that's the driving force behind me being a part of the movement. And I went to the Snyder Con for that very reason. And I wanted to know, they say don't meet your heroes. Man, Zack Snyder, I'm going to tell you, he was more genuine and nicer than half the people I've personally worked with. And I was like, man, why can't everybody in the industry be like you? So yeah, I'm in it until the film comes out. So
no doubt. See, I can see that Steve and Eddie, they get anxious at the bit. But we gonna get this popping. We just gonna get everybody introduced. We ain't gonna make this stay boring, because we gonna get into the meat and potatoes. But we just want to get through the basis of everything. So everybody that's out there. Oh, and I didn't mention this at the beginning. I'm gonna let Steve and let Eddie get to their points. Everybody that's watching this, everybody's respective Twitter handles is right there in front of you. Also, you also see the release the Snyder Cut down there as well. Make sure that y'all follow each and every one, or anyone that you want to follow, whoever that you feel that you would like to follow. Gladly do so. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead and take the reins. Tell everybody how you feel about this movement. Then we're going to get to Eddie, because we're going to get this jumping. We're going to get this popping. Go ahead, brother.
I will say that I first got into the hashtag movement right after Justice League. I was so excited, man. I remember going into that theater. I managed to get into a sneak preview, sneak showing on Wednesday for Justice League, And even though like when we heard that Zach had to step down and everything because of the unfortunate tragedy, and when they brought Joss in, I I was optimistic about it too, because Joss did make Serenity, and I really like that film, and he has his like really great moments. But I was excited to watch it. Then when I saw this, I'm like, what the hell is this? This does not make any sense. And then because it's totally different, because I was watching almost like a live action cartoon, and not to say that's bad, not to say that's wrong, because it does appeal to like viewers. You got that's the thing, but it doesn't fit to the themes of say MOS and BVS, even Suicide Squad, and later on even Wonder Woman. It just doesn't fit to this whole structure. And then when I went online, and then suddenly I see like, ways things happen, and this is unlike any other, because you do have director cuts. Sometimes they're needed because of test screening and everything, but there's something different about this movie because of what happened. Because I own director cuts of Kingdom of Heaven, and it's amazing. And then even with I just had a talk with the Lightcast about my experience on Suicide Squad, and it's I can equate, like, say that's a different story, but that's you can say about how like with Payback, the Mel Gibson movie, there are two cuts of it, and even with Daredevil, there are two cuts of that movie, and you can see the total difference. But
Oh yeah.
you understand why things were made. Now, but looking at with this situation, it's totally different, and the more news and things and that came about is that you see that no, this is completely different to any other film in terms of tampering, in terms of like the situations behind it. And I think what Rob has said is that for me, I'm more surprised in how this movement has become more than just to see a release of a movie, because it means more, like having this movie released. It stands up for something. It stands up for something good. It stands up for like this movement has done so much in raising for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. It has stood up for like in terms of integrity, in terms of like having your vision be put out there. So um I think that's what surprised me the most, in that for me this movement has brought in all these outside elements to make it more than just the release of a movie. And now we fast forward to where it's an eventuality. It's going to happen. And the thing is that for me, when Zack Snyder's Justice League gets released and everyone gets to see it, that's a big accomplishment, not just for Zack, but for all of us, in that how we're all united. And that's to me is like a really good thing. So
No,
I'm really surprised at that.
no doubt, no doubt. Eddie, go ahead, my brother.
I think I actually saw the hashtag maybe a week or two after the movie was released, and when I first saw it, I think I was just kind of just too giddy, so I liked it. I saw it in one of the early screenings on Wednesdays. I did that, and then I saw it with friends in IMAX the next time, and then I saw it with my dad. And I was telling by the third time I think I saw it with my dad, I was telling him all about like, oh, this isn't even the movie that like he wanted to make. And like, I remember when Watchmen came out, I'm like, dude, get this guy to do Justice League. Like I remember saying that when I after watching that. So like when I finally saw Justice League, and I'm like, I was like, just off that high, getting out of the movie, and I was just like, that was actually kind of good. And then I started realizing it after the third time. I'm like, oh, this is not Zach. Like this is not him at all. So when I saw the hashtag, and I'm like, yeah, and all the details, I was like, yeah, this is definitely not the movie that we paid to see and that we've been wanting since Man of Steel, basically, and what I've been wanting since Watchmen. So like I've always been I remember I would fight on the internet for Man of Steel BVS all the time. So now I'm fighting for release of Snyder Cut all the time, especially on Reddit. Nobody fucking believes it's coming out. I'm like, dude, just like it's just like it gets me mad sometimes. And so I've been there. And then I was actually in New Orleans when the 17th happened. And I was like with friends at this really cool place, and I was just glued to my phone. I'm like, okay, who else is tweeting this? Who else is doing it? Like I'm seeing Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, people in the Marvel universe. I'm seeing Corey Barlog, who did fucking God of War. I was like, damn, he did it. I don't know if he did Paris. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But I'm like, so I was like, this is crazy. Like this is like and it sucks because like I'm in like. My one friend, he's a big Batman fan. He likes Man of Steel BVS for the most part, but he doesn't really follow the cut or like the release of the Snyder Cut movement. And then we were in New Orleans. I'm like, dude, Ben Affleck just tweeted it, and he's like, okay, it's coming out. And so I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. So I've been there from pretty much the very beginning, and honestly, I think it's gonna come out. I think all of us coming together, everybody coming together just to see Zach's vision is awesome. And, and it does mean something, that his work means something to other people and to a lot of other people. And I don't think that I have ever seen anything like this, following, movie news and stuff like that. And I'm just like super excited. I just wanted to come out so bad. I just wanted to actually see a trilogy. My mom got me the Justice League DVD for Christmas. I haven't even opened it. I'm like, and then like I turned to my dad. My mom's like, I'm like, so what's going on? And my dad's like, oh, you don't want to know. Don't worry about it. He told me everything. So I actually still have it. It hasn't even been opened. It's not even Blu-ray. It's like a regular DVD. So I mean, I don't want to throw it away just because my mom got it for me. But yeah.
No doubt. So now we're gonna get to the nitty gritty. So all of the introduction stuff is out the way. We done with all that. So now we about to go ahead and get on the nitty gritty. So everybody that's watching this and the one that's going to be watching this, I want to ask y'all this question. Anybody can interject and just go on ahead. Now, once this real movie comes out, once Justice League actually hits the table, do y'all feel that this movie is going to run the table of comic book movies in your estimation? And what will you do with your copy of the theatrical cut of Justice League? Are you going to hold on to it just to remember the trash? Or just to keep it? Or to show it to a comparison of what it is? Anybody can interject because we're going to trip out about this. I want to know. Me, I'll say my part. Anybody can go.
Okay, I'll go since I'm right next to y'all. I think when this movie comes out, and from what we've seen on Zach's post and everything, this is a completely different movie from what we saw. And that what was the budget for the reshoots? They reshot an entirely different film. I think that when this comes out, it's gonna
90% of the movie was They didn't use 90%.
I think that when Zack Snyder's Justice League comes out, it's gonna be nuclear, because now you see something and you wonders like, why did you withhold this? And in some ways I can understand, because it is epic and big and risky to tell a story like this. I mean, we gotta understand that these properties are money-making properties, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes the thing is, I can even say from my own end, you have these discussions of like, what do we do to ensure to get the audience to come back? Because you do take a risk of telling these type of stories. But the thing is that you got to take these risks in telling these stories, in telling it in certain ways to stand out and be different and do not be compared to everything else. Like, I always find it funny when everyone says, oh, you got to do like Marvel. No. Marvel did their way. But the thing is, they did something on their own and they stuck to it. No matter what you say, they stuck to it. But why should you follow them? Do your own, make your own path. And that's what Zach was doing. And it's good that you have two different things. I remember back in the day when you had Nintendo and Sega. Sega was almost like this almost edgier console. Even with Sonic, he had more of an attitude compared to Mario. Now imagine if Sonic was the same thing as Mario. Like, what's the point? I already have one thing. So it's good to have two of the same, even though they're both the same thing. They're both platformer mascots. But you have two distinct differences. And that's the main thing. You got to have difference with storytelling. And I think that when this movie comes out, it gives vindication almost to Zach. And it gives that, what Zach was doing, the hours and all the planning and everything that you do, and all the hard work that Zach did, that everyone else did, paid off. And it's gonna change the whole landscape because of Zach's work, the movie, but also us and how we all banded together. Like, I think studios and everyone else is gonna think twice about like whether with meddling with creative art going forward. And I think that's scary about, like, with some folks, and think that'll set a good precedent going forward.
And I'm going to interject off that as well, because with that being said, this is going to create a domino effect. So a lot of people need to realize this as well, is that we are a movement that's actually getting out, because for years studios have been monopolizing a lot of creators. Because what they do is that they'll go on in, they'll change their direction and stuff like that, and then they'll have some alternative movie come out later, or it doesn't come out at all. Now, I think once this comes out, I think studios are really going to start coming into that range. Like, you know what? Let's not meddle into what they're trying to do. Let them do what they got to do. Because if it flops, it flops.
Yeah.
Because either way it goes, even if we intervene and it flops, well, it intervened, but they're going to blame it on the director. They're not going to get the blame because they was the one that was all in it. So, I just want to consider the director. It could be the writers, the producers, everybody that's on the crew. So I say that once this version of the movie actually gets put out there, okay, it's going to run the table, because now I think director integrity, director's vision is not going to be compromised. They're not going to actually just come on in and just start messing with stuff. They're going to let that director's vision get out there. So, I mean, that's how I feel about it. And maybe y'all didn't get my question, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll reissue it. What I'm saying is that when Justice League gets put out, do y'all feel that this movie is going to be the comic book movie of movies? And do you think that with the Justice League that we have now, the theatrical cut, what are your plans on doing with it? Are you going to throw it away? Are you going to keep it as a collector's item? Or are you going to just keep it for a comparison to show people of what the former executives at WB actually did to a man's vision?
Well, to make mine short, it'll be the comic book movies, or comic book movies for the time being, until something else happens, until maybe Zach ups himself, or somebody, maybe, because everyone has to up the previous thing, right? Now, in terms of Justice League theatrical cut, luckily I don't own any of that. But if I had that disc on me, I would just keep it for myself as a reminder of, being an actor and a content creator, or even anything. It's just a reminder of, like, one thing compared to the next. And I think it's for yourself. Like, for me, it's for myself, of what could happen and what can happen. And then you look at the eventuality with Zack Snyder's Justice League, that good can happen out of it.
Lost him.
Oh, he'll be back.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
He got mad at you and he left.
I think.
No, I don't believe that.
I think that. I think that Justice League, the theatrical cut, is kind of going to be like a time capsule. Like we'll get the Snyder Cut, and that'll be kind of like how nobody watches the theatrical cut of BVS anymore. That'll be sort of like an element of its era, and you can look at it and you can say, hey, do you guys remember that time when WB made that movie instead of releasing the one that everybody watches anyways? Right. I think that it's really hard for WB to release it, mostly because they don't want to admit that they made mistakes. Right. They kind of want to double down on their decision making.
True.
But yeah,
I'm charging my headphones, so somebody go ahead.
Well, for me, like Steve, I don't have a copy of the theatrical cut of Justice League. As soon as when I was in the theater and I saw the logo come up and I noticed that it wasn't stylized, I was like, this is not a Snyder film and I'm not buying it. So that was kind of my my deciding moment. You know, he always does something cool with the studio logos.
Yeah.
You know, when the Snyder Cut comes out, I will probably buy a copy of the theatrical cut as well, just as a reminder of our victory over the studio. I keep a copy of Dragon Ball Evolution on my shelf as a reminder. But yeah, I of what studios can do if they're not kept in check. I think that when the Snyder Cut, or when Zack Snyder's Justice League is finally released, whether it be sooner or later, eventually we're going to get it. When that does happen, yeah, I think that not only is it going to be, you know, the film that, well, first of all, we should have gotten to begin with, but also I think that it's going to set a new bar for, at least for comic book fans. I don't know how mainstream audiences are going to react. They seem to like boring movies. The Avengers movies, all 4 of them have been huge, and only one of them was good. It's my opinion, but hopefully Snyder's movie is just, you know, like Steve said, nuclear. So yeah, you know, I don't know, but I think that industry wide, it's going to create a precedent, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to as an artist, because hopefully once that movie is released, it will show, hey, you know what, studios get it. People, the fans, viewers want to see a filmmaker make a movie. We don't want to see a studio logo, as Zach puts it. And hopefully that'll pave the road for upcoming artists like us to come in. And I mean, it wasn't just Zach that was done wrong with this. You know, Junkie XL got booted off the movie so that you know, so Joss Whedon could bring in
Danny
Elfman
to
bring back the only Batman theme. Gosh.
Actually, that was an executive's call. That really wasn't Whedon. That was an executive's call. And when they did that, apologize everybody. My computer did an automatic update and it kicked me out. So that's the reason why. Yeah, it automatically kicked me out, and my computer is updating right now. How sucky is that?
My phone died, so I'm charging them.
Either
no,
way,
but yeah, that was actually that was a call
that,
from.
I think the public will react to Zack Snyder's Justice League the very same way that they've reacted to all of Snyder's other work. They won't understand it. I think that a lot of people just aren't wired to pick up on those things. I don't think it means that they're a more stupid individual or anything like that. I just think that there's an approach to filmmaking as an art form that he uses, and I don't think a lot of people get it. So I think the mainstream audiences will either really love it or really hate it. You know what I mean?
DC will be going in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's going to be the headline.
Well,
a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and if you think about it, and going back to what Ethan was saying, what was that? That's true. You know, we don't want to. Marvel did their thing. We can't say that Marvel is a bad thing, because they did their own thing. Okay, but for the time frame that they had, the audience was conditioned. Their condition was conditioned to a particular format in a particular way. That's what they were accustomed to. Now, if you're not a diehard, cold hard fan, then this genre that's coming forth to you, you're not going to understand it. They're not ready for it. So you have to look at it in that way, because now you also have people that are extremely stubborn, that are not into things. For instance, I was going to get to this topic and go from there, but it's the same thing pertaining to Kal-El, on the way that he is portrayed, and the way that Zach, Goyer, and Nolan on what they did with him, which is finally about time, because they humanized him. With that being said, because I was going to get into that, how do y'all feel about that? And with Superman being the main character of this arc, because that's what it's centered around. Anybody can take the reins on that. What do y'all feel about that with Superman being the centerpiece and what they was going to do with how do y'all, how can I say, what Zach wanted to do with the character? How do y'all feel about that? I want to hear how y'all feel on how Zach went ahead and what he did with the character. Do y'all feel that it was a better thing? Was it a medium? Was it medium or an? I want to hear y'all take.
It's what Zach said in Comic-Con. Like, I remember this. I will always remember this when him and Henry Cavill were in Comic-Con promoting Man of Steel, and he said that Superman's the crown jewel. And
Exactly.
to me, how Zach presented, and it goes to his ideology of these movies being the modern myths. And if you look at all our mythical stories, or like the Greek myth stories, or even with religion or anything like that, you always have these figures. And how you wanted, the way I see that Zach incorporated is that taking these stories and these figures and making them real. And the thing about with me with Superman is that I think it resonated with me more is that Zach took the figure of Superman, and it's almost like it's biblical, it's mythical, and is that you're going to see the journey of Superman from his Kryptonian roots all the way to the traditional Superman, what we have, what is everyone is accustomed to now. And you can see that with even, I was looking yesterday, like almost the concept art for all his costumes. When you start with MOS, it was more of that Kryptonian darker blue. Then it gradually, with BVS, it's starting to lighting up. Then when you get to Justice League, or that end shot when he rips his shirt open, that's the progression of the character. But you don't just get to that in, say, in like 5 minutes. If you really want to tell the story of a character, right? If you really want to make it epic and biblical, and that's the thing we have to understand. Like, this is going to be a really a mythical story. Now, when I think Eddie, you mentioned God of War. I love, right?
Yeah.
I love God of War. That is my favorite game series. But you see the story of Kratos from God of War 1 up until God of War 3 is this epic story, right? And it keeps
Yeah.
going and
Well,
going. And that's how I saw with Zack treating Superman, is that you're telling this epic story with Superman where his birth, his emergence into our world opens up this world of DC. And it's this grandiose way of telling the story. Whatever Zack does, it's not small, it's big. And
epic.
and that's how I feel about myself. If you're gonna tell
Yeah.
a story, if you're gonna make something, go big or go home, right? Take
Mhm.
your risk. Take that shot. Always shoot your shot, man.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel.
Yeah, God forbid Zach sees Superman as a like that character that we see in the comics as a destination for Clark to get to, rather than seeing that as the starting point for the character, right?
Mhm.
Like that's kind of always how I envisioned it. Like this is this ideal that, you know, Cal is striving towards, and he struggles, and he literally fulfills Jor-El's words in the first flight speech, right? They will stumble, they will fall, in time they'll join you in the sun. And it always felt very clear to me from watching Man of Steel and BVS that that was the journey we were going on. So I'm really happy with the character direction they chose to take with Clark, just because it makes clear sense to me that that would be sort of how you evolve into a Superman, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that Zack Snyder's approach to Superman, honestly, it's nothing. He didn't come up with that approach. This has been Superman from the beginning, hasn't it? I mean, we got off the back of 10 years of Smallville doing exactly that. You know, if you guys ever watched the show of Smallville, I mean, Clark was constantly having these ethical and moral dilemmas. He can physically do these things, but should he do these things? And the movie just took those questions that the show was asking, that the comics have been asking since day one. I mean, for crying out loud, when I saw Man of Steel, and Superman's been my favorite superhero since I was a very small child. Superman 4 was the second movie I ever saw in theaters. It's not good. It's not good. But in my defense, I was an infant. Superman's been my guy, and so Man of Steel, I'm like, this is Superman. If you read Action Comics #1, Superman's not this just blue Boy Scout. There's some kind of gray area there. Superman is a symbol of hope, not because he is morally superior to everyone, but because he's making the hard decisions and he's bearing the burden, not only the physical burden of being a hero, but he's bearing the moral burden, which is what Zach was doing. And that's what the character is all about, is about bearing the load for everyone else. He's making these hard decisions and he's sacrificing his own happiness, his own sort of life. In some cases, he's actually sacrificing his life, but he's sacrificing his life for everyone else. And how people don't see that is beyond me. And I think that they didn't. I think people checked out when he killed Zod, but there was no other option. You have to come to that point, and it frustrates me so much. And the idea that Superman is joyless in those films, in Man of Steel and BVS, is baffling. He smiles more than anybody else, but it's I don't know. People are watching these movies with their eyes shut.
Well, you have to look at it. You have to look at it from this perspective. All right, it goes back to what I said prior, before I got cut out. People are conditioned. You have to realize this too. There's two things pertaining to the character. Now, Kal-El had got humanized. They humanized the character, which is a very, very good thing. And you have to remember, a lot of people are so conditioned, they are not willing to understand or not trying to look at where a character is going to evolve. They're not trying to look at that. The concepts of the character are still there. So, and you have to remember this, popular culture, all they look at is movies. They don't read books. They don't look at actual, how could I say, animations. They don't watch the movies. A lot of people, some of the people, like you say, you watch Smallville, but they'll watch the actual, all they know are the actual movies. That's all they know. They don't know anything else. They might watch Super Friends. They might have watched stuff like that. And that is what they gravitate to because that's all they know. They don't know any other material about these characters. Same thing with Batman. Same thing with Wonder Woman and so forth. They don't know about the characters. So when individuals get knowledge or they get introduced to these characters for the first time, it's not that they don't know of them. They know them, but they don't know them. So when they get introduced to them, they get introduced to these characters in movie format. That's what they're going to go by. Because majority, they're not going to do their homework and their due diligence to read the actual stories. They're not going to do that. They're going to watch something for what it's worth, and that's what they're going to take it with. That's what they're going to take with them. So you have to look at it in that light. I read comics, so I know these characters. I know what they've gone through. For instance, with Zach as a whole, people say that Zach does not know characters. People, please, the man knows about the characters. This 5-movie arc that he was going to present to everybody is parts of Kingdom Come, Injustice. What's another one? They're all top-notch books that DC has written, and he incorporated that. Death of Superman. Everything that we see is all from these books. So that's why I say in that forefront, you have to take it for what it's worth and what he's trying to bring forth to the end. In this Ram, he was telling the story. It was just an arc of putting all this stuff that is in the DC universe into one one straight line. So I want to know about this. Also, okay, so with Zack as a whole, do y'all feel that once Justice League gets released, do y'all think that Zack will be willing to do part 2? Do y'all think that he'll be willing to do part 3, knowing that what has happened to him with the studios? Now, mind you, I want y'all to take this into play, because I do all my research and do all my homework on this. I'm very serious in this, okay? Because I've done it all. The former executives are not there. The new executives are at Warner Brothers. We know that AT&T has bought Warner Brothers. But with these new executives in play, do y'all think that they are going to rewrite this wrong and to allow Zack himself to do what he needs to do? We understand with Justice League, but do you think that he'll do 2 or 3 if he's willing and they allow him to? I want to hear everybody's outlook on that.
That's the miracle, right? That everybody wants that if it does get released, or when it does get released, and they approach him or he goes approach them about part 2, part 3. But I don't know, like, is Ben Affleck going to be on board? Like, is everybody going to come back? Are they going to retcon the universe again? Those are like the things that probably would stop WB from doing that. And, but I mean, I would want that so bad. Like, I can only imagine seeing like that Batman's death on screen because of Darkseid, and like, I wanted that so bad for so long. Like, and it sucks. Like, most of the things that he did put in those movies are from the comics, like dialogue, like images. Like, it's crazy. Like, I have to keep telling people like they were in the comics. Like, please, like, It's like, if he was able to do it, I think he would do it. But I think it's up to the studio, obviously, and that's going to be the big hurdle that would be a miracle.
I think like it would be like I think it depends on really 2 things. I think the reception to Justice League is probably going to be. My hope is, okay, for some of these directors that are very controversial, they're looking like M. Night Shyamalan. Like, yeah. He started off being beloved, and then he made some films that even I didn't like there in like the early 2010s, and then he took like a 3-year break, somewhere around 2 or 3 year break, and then he came back with The Visit, and then everybody kind of forgot about that and just kind of liked him again. There seems to be a change. Like, people view him a lot more positively now than they did back 10 years ago when it was popular to hate him. I'm hoping that the same thing happens with that, because I mean, he's been gone from the spotlight for years now, and he's really been not a big presence on Twitter, and just on Vero. And I'm also kind of curious to see how the ending of Justice League, how it actually ends. Like, is it an open-ended ending, or is it going to be?
That's the question.
Yeah,
cliffhanger.
I think we probably would see something, continue if it is in fact open-ended. But I'd be curious to see, because like there's talks, rumors like the reshoots and stuff like that. So or not reshoots, but more shoots, or what we've been hearing about with the person who won the poster event gets to come on set for a supposed more production.
That's legit.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious to see what that is, and how. I'm assuming it's probably going to be something for the 3rd act, and I'm wondering. That's just it. That's just what I'm curious about. If it ends in a cliffhanger, we probably will at least see something else. Whether that's the talks of like a mini series TV show or something like that, or more movies. I'm not 100% sure, but I just want to see more. That's all that matters to me. Like, but yeah, that's my 2 major things.
Anybody can take it.
Oh, okay. That Jim Lee concept art. I want that wall that Kevin Smith keeps talking about.
Well, Kevin, everybody has to know. We're going to go ahead. I ain't going to even say that. We'll do this. I want to know everybody pertaining to Zack, and just Zack, just alone. Out of all his movies, All right, out of all his movies, and you can go from 1 to top. Which is your favorite? Which is your favorite movie from A to Z? With him directing, not producing. With him directing, from A to Z.
Oh man.
Which is your favorite movie? Which is your top Zack Snyder movie? Which is your bottom? We're gonna go from the bottom.
Oh shit.
We're gonna get everybody. Ain't nobody exempt from this. Nobody.
Is Zach gonna watch this?
Everybody gets it. We're gonna go with Ethan first, and we're gonna work our way up.
Oof.
So
I have
want us to
I have
get
a
canceled, don't you?
Yeah.
question, Prime.
You say what?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This list right here, it says 2017 Justice League. Are we talking the theatrical cut? Because that's my bottom.
I see
Of
Justice
course, yeah,
League there. That shouldn't be. That's just up there because his name is credited in the movie. So we know that's not his real version of the movie. So right now, Justice League is out. Justice League don't count because his real movie not up there.
Good.
But we know he directed
right.
it. But they put it up. It's up there because he directed it. It's in the credit.
All right.
Okay. Whew. This is
All
hard.
right.
You want us to start with the bottom?
See you on my top and bottom movie, hey?
No, just you can you start from the lowest and what is it to the top. So which is in order, which is your favorite Zack? Ooh yeah, I got the brains going now. Oh yeah, we gonna see. We gonna see.
Yeah, man, you cold, man. You cold-blooded in this, yo.
Oh no. It's a good
All right.
one. It's
Here,
a good one.
everybody else answer because I got to pull it up on my laptop real quick.
All right.
All right.
Let's
Oh
see.
man. Just the 1 and 2. Just the 2.
We'll go with
the
Drew first. We'll
least
go
and
with
favorite.
whoever. You know what? Since Ethan is up, we're gonna go with Drew.
All right, so just a quick okay, so when I say like least favorite,
You know what? To be honest, these are the ones. Okay, go for the ones that's already done. So
Right.
Army of the Dead, because we ain't seen that yet. That don't count.
Can't wait.
In Justice
Can't
League.
wait.
So all the ones that has been out and that is directed so far. So the ones that's out. So Justice League and Army of the Dead are out. The ones that he has directed so far, from the bottom to the top. Go ahead.
So if I were to scale on a scale of 1 to 10 of Zack Snyder movies, none of his movies would really score under like an 8 out of 10. Like I almost love every one of his movies. But if I'm starting from the bottom, Legends of the Guardians, just because I'm not like it's a visually fantastic movie and it's a great movie, but I just don't love animation. I've always gravitated towards live action, so just by sheer coincidence of that. Next would be Dawn of the Dead. I love that. I have so much nostalgia for it, but then but I just love his other movies more. Then 300. I actually just watched that like right after like 2018 for the first time, like the whole way through. So I don't have as much memories of that movie. I do love it, but it's just one I haven't gone back to that often. And then I would have to say Man of Steel. Love that movie. And then Sucker Punch. Something about that movie, just I go back to that movie probably 4 or 5 times a year. There's just something about that movie that's magical to me. Like I don't know if it's just the what do you call it, dream sequences, or I don't know what you would want to call it. Just the visual style of those fights. Like I know somebody mentioned, it would be awesome to see if like what a Snyder Dragon Ball Z movie would look like, just because of that visual style. I think fits perfectly with a Dragon Ball Z movie.
That train sequence is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And then Watchmen, it would be my second favorite, and those are my 2 favorite comic book movies: is Watchmen and then Batman vs Superman, which is one of my all-time favorite movies in general, not just comic book movies.
No doubt. Next, we're gonna go to Rob.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say probably Dawn of the Dead would be my the bottom of my list, and it's not because it's not a great movie. I just think that he's really improved since his first film. You know, as any director should.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like the least Zack Snyder movie.
Zach's first movie is probably way better than mine. We'll see. It's not out yet, but yeah. So after Dawn of the Dead, I would have to say probably The Legend of the Guardians. I love animation, but I don't know. It's a kids movie that's good for grown-ups too, but I really like the gravitas that he puts in his other films. That it's just a personal preference. Legend of the Guardians probably second after or second least favorite after Dawn of the Dead, just because I think it is visually more stunning than Dawn of the Dead. But then after that, I'd have to say Sucker Punch, which I think is a brilliant film, but I think for me it's very jarring. I mean, it's like getting sucker punched, and so for me it's a little bit tiring to watch. But the thing about Sucker Punch is that I could watch individual sequences from that film over and over and over because they're just amazing. And it's watching stuff like that doesn't inspire me to one day make that Dragon Ball Z movie. Don't give Zach any ideas. Gonna do it better than I could.
It's mine. It's mine.
Lifelong dream.
He'll executive produce yours, man.
Yeah.
Now that's an idea.
And then get me to play Piccolo to do the.
There you go.
With the beard.
With the beard.
Yeah, Piccolo with the beard.
In my contract, I can't shave it.
Yeah. After Sucker Punch, I'm gonna. This is tough. I'm gonna have to say Man of Steel, and this is where it gets like real tight for these movies. Like there's like a hair between them. Man of Steel, and then Watchmen, and then I'm gonna have to say 300. Like I said earlier, 300. I was 20 when 300 came out, and I went in to the movie with I couldn't grow facial hair or anything, and I walked out with full beard, hair on my chest. my shirt was missing. I don't know. I went in a boy and I came out a man. So did my sister. It was crazy. So 300, and that one just holds a special place in my heart too. It was the first Zack Snyder movie that I ever saw, and I took my sister to go see it. It was her first R-rated movie. She was turning. It was her 17th birthday. So 300, and then my number one Snyder film is Batman v Superman. I watched that movie 2 weeks ago. I watched it 3 times in a row. So I always go back to it. It's like that's the movie that I study that film and I watch it over and over and over. And yeah, to me, that's the pinnacle of superhero movies so far. So I love it. I just love it.
Next, we're going to go with Eddie. We're gonna get back to Ethan because he was. We're gonna get back to Ethan.
I hope Zach doesn't hear this. I'm gonna say Legends only because I have not seen it. So okay. I'm so sorry. But probably the next one, bottom up, Sucker Punch. Like same thing with Robby was saying. Like I could watch sequences from that movie over and over again, but watching it all the way through does get a little bit tiring. And then probably, even though Watchmen is probably his objectively best. Well, actually, no, not Watchmen yet. Not yet. I forgot about 300, Dawn of the Dead. And now Dawn of the Dead right after Sucker Punch, probably because it's probably the least Zack Snyder movie. I actually just rewatched it. I was watching, like when this quarantine started, I was watching a bunch of zombie movies. And I watched that and I'm like, yeah, that's definitely his least like like Zack Snyder movie because it's obviously his first. It's just just starting, and then maybe and then after that would be 300. But that was still like I remember I unfortunately incited like a little riot in my math class because I chanted 300, and everybody started chanting, and my math teacher got really mad because he didn't get to do anything. He didn't teach anything that day. But that's still those action scenes too. Like that one shot with Leonidas is still great. And then probably Watchmen, even though it's probably his objectively best film, especially like the ultimate cut. And then even though I love it, like even that I just watched actually the 4-hour one not too long ago for the first time, and it felt great. Like actually, it didn't even feel like a struggle at all. And then probably the next ones after that, Man of Steel and BVS always flip flop. I think I'm gonna just say Man of Steel. Just because I think BVS is just so comic booky that like I just fucking love it. Like when I saw that Flash scene for the first time, I'm like, holy shit! Like Flash, he's going back in time. Like what the fuck? Like he just came back from back in time. Like and like to see him multiple times and to like try to hear what he's saying. Like I'm too soon. Like and then in that interview that Zach had where he said that like it was during like in the middle of writing Justice League that they made that nightmare sequence because it was just like a tease for what's going to come next, and I just want to see the conclusion of that nightmare sequence. So that's probably my favorite.
No doubt. Go ahead, Steve. What's yours?
Well, all of Zach's films are all tops, no bottoms. But I would say for me, if I were to rank them, for me personally, it would be 300, then Guardians, then Dawn of the Dead. Then I would say the Watchmen, the 4-hour Black Freighter edition. That. Then my top 3 would be Sucker Punch Extended Edition, because that for me that always wins me over the more I watch it. And it's like and if you think of the time it was made and where we are today now, it's like my gosh, man, it's like this is way ahead of his time. I think that's the one thing about Zack and all his movies and all these movies is that I think you said it, Prime, is that this man he's like yards ahead of everyone. And that's the thing, like even though like everyone's doing one step ahead, and Zack's like 5 steps ahead. And it's evident in all his movies. Then after that, my top 2 would be it's definite for BVS as number 2. To me that's like the Blade Runner of our time. It's incredible, like what's in this film, and when you dissect it and everything. And I truly believe that as time goes on, you'll have film students and actually dissect, and hopefully film professors dissecting this movie just as much as we dissected in the past like 3 years. And my number 1 is Man of Steel, because when I saw this movie, my gosh, I was floored, man. It's like you can the thing about Man of Steel, what makes it so different is that it's structurally so different from all the other comic book films, even though they do things that are their own. If you look at all like from Donner Superman even to Batman, and even all like Winter Soldier, and even Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2, 3, Ant-Man, and even like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, they're all individualized, but they all follow a same structure. Even Blade 1 and 2, you all follow a same similar structure, right? Okay, man, you get the conflict, you get the powers, you introduce the villain, and this and blah blah blah. It follows like the same blueprint path. But Man of Steel changed all that. It's a new way of telling an origin story. It's a new way of telling a comic book, not a comic book story, but the story of a man and the story of a character. And I saw that at least 5 times in theaters because I couldn't get enough of it. And that to me, same. I would say that's the blueprint of how you should make, not exactly like Man of Steel, but how you should go forward in telling a character's story. And you can see that influence, like bar none. So that's my rankings of Zack's movies.
That's your ranking. All right, Ethan, your turn, my brother.
All right. So at the bottom of my list is going to be Dawn of the Dead for the simple fact that I haven't seen it yet, which is blasphemy, I know, but I'm getting to it, I promise. Underneath that, or I guess above that, it would probably be Guardians. I think Guardians is visually stunning, and I love animated films. I just think that everything that Zach does is incredible. You know what I mean? I just think that the other things are a little better. Next, I would probably go with 300 for the simple fact that that I don't have as much memories of it as any of the other films. I'm not as connected to it. I think that it's fantastic, but I'm just not as connected to it. After that, I'd probably go with Watchmen, I think. I really like Watchmen. At this point, I don't have anything to say about like these next three because they're all just kind of like I really like them, and I could rank them in a different order depending on the day. You know what I mean? But above that, I would rank Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch is unique to me because I've watched it a couple of times, and I still don't really understand what's going on, but I know that I like it. You know what I mean? So. For me, it's a good endeavor to sit down and learn more about storytelling and stuff like that because I don't really get it. So I like to sit down and endeavor to understand. And then above that comes Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel is a superhuman story, and a superhuman story, and I think that it touches on some really great themes. I watched it yesterday, I think, or the day before. I can't remember. And then my top Snyder film is BVS. It's my favorite film of all time, and it's the reason I like movies in the first place. I wasn't really that into him when it came out, except then I watched it, and I didn't like BVS at first. I didn't like the theatrical cut. But then I watched the ultimate cut, and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. It retroactively made the theatrical cut better by watching the ultimate cut. And from there, I've like binged film videos online and like researched storytelling and stuff like that. So that's probably my rankings.
No doubt. Well, my rankings from bottom to top. And for the ones that's actually watching and they're looking at this, there is no right or wrong answer to these because it's all everybody's opinion on how they rank the movies. Because all of us are Zach fans and we love his craft. So there's nothing, everybody has their opinion on the movies. Now me, I watch every single movie there is because I'm a diehard Zach fan. So I'm going to go from the bottom and go all the way up to the top. The movie is absolutely stunning. It is a kid's movie. So I'm going to go with Legend of the Guardians. So that would be at the bottom of my list, no doubt. Next would be actually Dawn of the Dead. So that'll be the next one. Even though Dawn of the Dead, even though you have to actually watch the actual the director's cut. So you have to watch that one. That's the one you want to watch. But the only reason why that one is so low, because for the simple fact is that it's an apocalypse, and the way that he actually made zombies run. See, people fail to realize that. See, when you go into that movie and you're watching it, what would actually happen if an actual academic actually came out? And if you really, really pay attention to all the details that's in that movie, that is what happened. When you have zombies that are actually running after you, they're not doing all the crazy stuff that you think. No, they're running. They're coming after you. They're hitting doors. They're doing all type of stuff. So more of a realistic, more real life setting on what it would actually do in a rewritten story of the original Dawn of the Dead. My next one would be Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch is absolutely, I love the movie and I love Sucker Punch to death. Don't get me wrong. I love Sucker Punch. But you're going to have to watch the actual the extended version of the movie if you're really going to get the full element of Sucker Punch. That'll be the one that you actually have to watch. My next one would be 300, of course. No doubt. Right after 300 is going to be Watchmen, then Man of Steel, then BVS. That's it. All in a nutshell, that is my list on all of them. Now, once Army of the Dead and once Justice League officially comes out, those orders are going to be changed. They're going to be changed because I know Army of the Dead is going to be off the hook. So, and also we all know that Justice League is going to be off the hook. And with that being said, what are some of the things y'all are looking forward to in Justice League, the movie? What are the things that y'all actually looking forward to see? What are the parts that y'all really looking forward to? That's what I want to know. Anybody can go with that. What are the things that y'all are actually looking forward to? Now, if y'all been following Zach and really been knowing what's going on with Hero and everything that's been going on with the movement, and for the ones that's watching this, I highly recommend that you really stay close to the movement and pay attention to everything because there's a lot. So, gentlemen, y'all tell me, what is it that y'all looking for in the movie? What is it that what the main part you're looking for?
Aside from everything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The 3.5 hours. I just want 3.5 hours of a movie.
I mean, what is the part of the movie that you're really looking forward to, though? What is the
nightmare? The continuation of the nightmare sequence, and definitely probably the final fight, because I know, I don't think there's an action scene in the theatrical cut that actually captures me, just like the warehouse or the Smallville fight. I don't think there was a single one in that movie that because I go on YouTube, rewatch his action scenes all the time, and I have not done that with the theatrical. I just want to know what the real final fight was and how that was choreographed and everything like that. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
No doubt. What about you, Rob?
I think there's a theme of family in all these movies, right? There's a lot of influence of the mother and the father in Clark's life, and in Bruce's life, of course, and even in Lex's story. And we were going to see more of that with Ray Fisher and with Cyborg. And I was looking forward to seeing the continuation of that theme and seeing that sort of emotional connection carried through, right?
So Cyborg is yours. What about you, Steve?
Just to go off of Ethan, for me, it's Cyborg as well. But I think it's interesting in that when you look up all the information, if you play True Detective about how Cyborg was supposed to be in his film, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and even in the theatrical cut, even if it's all reshot and cut down, what impacted me the most about that was you can see Zack's intent of making Cyborg the main focus, the heart and soul of this film. Yep. And I think that for me, being not to get too political about this or even whatever, but me being a person of color as well, I think that's interesting. I think what in all of Zack's works is that he unites and shows representation without overly saying it. His work shows that. And I think with this panel already, you see many types of people, his fans, all come together and be united, and you can see through his work. And that's the thing I want to see of his portrayal of Cyborg and his portrayal of family, and how much this character really, I think, unites all the characters together, because that's what his intentions of, as Ethan said, of family and being together, you can see it with the Cyborg character. And also that first flight of Cyborg, that rendering is if that rendering is just a sample of what we'll see, it's my gosh, man. Imagine this shit on IMAX, yo, relax, man.
They better come to IMAX.
Oh, no doubt. What about you, Drew?
So I'm really curious to see how they continue the journey of Batman in the movie, because he started BVS. Basically it's a journey of somebody who has trauma and battles through that trauma, and finds the humanity in Superman at the end of the movie, and finds through that some of his works through some of his own trauma that he had, of course, the whole Martha sequence and everything like that. that I'm really curious to see how that continues into Justice League. And just as a pure fan thing, I don't think that I don't know if we'll actually ever see it, as sad as it makes me to admit, but I just wish that we could get the original Steppenwolf design.
Yeah,
That is the coolest and scariest villain I've ever seen on like just the whole the design of it, just the look of it. It looks scary. It looks like an alien. I don't know if we'll ever get to see it, but man, if we just could, I really, really wish we could get to see it. Again, not sure if we will. I would be elated if we do, if that does revert back to the original. I don't know if they would be willing to spend the millions that it would take to recreate that design and do it through the whole movie. I'm also just really curious to see the introduction of Darkseid to cinema. I'm really it's just from that sequence in BVS, just seeing the Omega symbol in the Nightmare sequence. It's just it's the buildup of that, and I'm really.
I want to see those Omega beams, man. I want to know what they look like.
Oh yeah,
man.
yeah.
Like that shit.
I want to see the history lesson,
Yeah.
What about
Lord of the Rings?
Well, I will say I do disagree with Drew about Steppenwolf's original design being the scariest thing. I think that would probably go to the theatrical version of Superman.
Zorro.
Well done.
So we did kind of see the Omega beams, I think, didn't we, in the theatrical cut? But they changed them green. The Green Lantern's ring.
Oh yeah.
When it zipped off, that was definitely an Omega beam. It looked like it to me, anyway. The thing that I'm looking forward to in the film is just some. This is something that I noticed the last time I watched the theatrical cut. Was it's inconsistent visually. You can actually see shots that Zach did, and you know that he did them because it's shot on film. There's film grain on it, and then you see Joss Whedon stuff, and it's shot on digital. Zach shoots up until Army of the Dead. Everything that he shot was on film. And Joss Whedon does it on digital. It's cheaper to do it on digital, and so it makes sense that the studio would push for that. And you can tell it goes from this really nice looking, like weighty celluloid to this artificial looking digital kind of thing. And I'm looking for that consistency throughout the film, not only within itself, but within the consistency between Justice League, BVS, and Man of Steel. This through line,
that trilogy.
Because you watch Man of Steel, and then you watch BVS, and it feels like one long 5-hour movie, and then you watch Justice League, and it looks like a YouTube fan film, and it's just it's infuriating to watch. It's painful to watch it. Even if I didn't know anything about the Snyder Cut movement, I would watch the theatrical cut and still be baffled that this was they're not the same characters. Visual consistency, tonal consistency. They don't have the same haircuts. Nothing. Gosh, it's just everything about it is inconsistent, and I'm also looking forward to not to tack on an extra thing, but specifically scene wise, I would definitely be interested to see the scene where Wonder Woman is at the very beginning, and the cult members or whatever they are, they come into that
members. Yeah.
In the trailer, it kind of looked like she failed.
No,
and
it blows up.
The building blows up in the.
Go ahead and finish your point. I'll tell you how the scene is. I'm going to do for the ones that don't know and y'all really haven't seen everything. Flashback FM made a video.
Okay.
Now they have it unlisted, but I have the link, and you can actually watch everything that Zach has done, and it's all in sequence on how the movie was supposed to be. So it's all in line, not only from all the concept art, all the stuff that was cut out, everything that was going sequence by sequence. It's a 50-minute video. So it goes all the way down until we get to now. So all the new stuff that Zach has presented, it's not in the video. They did this video back in January of 2020. So it's very brand new. So everything twines with everything. Yes. So
the trailer
to with Diana is that when she gets to the actual to the cathedral, when she gets there or whatever, there's a big battle scene that's supposed to be there. They completely changed that. Now, for the ones y'all don't know, cinematographer Fabian Wagner, remember when I said earlier that 90% of the movie was actually taken out? So all the footage that Zach had already done and he had already filmed, 90%, they didn't use that. They only used 10% of the stuff. 10%. So when they did the reshoot, they reshot 90% of the movie. So they basically redid the whole movie. The whole movie. So for instance, there are particular scenes that you're already going to see, like the conversation between Diana and Bruce. That's not until the 2-hour mark. When she starts talking about Darkseid. That's not the 2-hour mark. So you have to remember, this is a 3-hour movie. So everything lines up and everything is all in line with everything. So, but with that scene, what you're saying, the battle does happen because you knew it was a Josh Whedon because when I first saw it, when the guy said, "Who are you?" and she said, "I'm a believer," I'm like, she's not gonna say that. That is so cheesy, like crazy. So that whole scene is that it's a battle scene.
Yep.
So there's a big battle with not the gunman. No, she gets rid of the first bomb, but the other bomb goes off because she doesn't get to the other bomb in time. Okay, that's that sequence, and it goes on from there. So
that's what I was talking about. Yeah. She fails to stop both detonations. In the trailer, you see the cops outside,
and it blows up.
Bomb goes off, and I think that moments of failure for the heroes in the film it just seems like it sets the stage so much better. If you see things happening and the heroes are doing their best, but they're failing, and that's what makes them have to come together. Not that they're all just so triumphant and then they come together because the plot says they have to.
Bad guy wants to take over the world for the millionth time.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And Steppenwolf grabbing the missile and he says primitive weapons, even though he didn't say that with the arrows. Yeah, there's arrows flying at him and he's like, "Oh, these are so advanced, but that missile over there."
So there's a lot of stuff that they changed. I would say there's a lot that I want to see. I'm going to give you my 3. I said 1, but I got to give you 3. I got to say 3. The first one is, I think a lot of people on the panel really are agreeing on this. It is the story of Cyborg, because you get to see actually everything with his mom, everything that at Star Labs with his dad. You're going to see the accident. You're going to see everything with his mom and his dad because they both die, and we want to see how that really affects him, because you got to remember he's the heart of the actual movie. He's the heart of it. All right. That's the first thing. So I really want to see that with Cyborg as a whole. Him with the Gotham University with the football team, all that stuff. I want to see all that. The next thing is that I want to see how Cal is resurrected, because people fail to realize, they didn't mention this, and a lot of people forget this. Cyborg detects foreign entities in his genetics. Do y'all know what that is?
The Codex. Right?
The Codex. Yeah. They never brought that up, and a lot of people forgot about that.
Yeah, right.
So I want to find out a little bit more what was going on with the Codex inside him. What was actually going on with that to revive him? Because we know, and Zach already said it. He said, "How did he get revived? By the mother box." He said, "What?" He didn't get revived by the mother box. So what I'm saying is that there's something else on how he got revived, and it has something to do with the Codex. That's the next thing. And last but not least, Martian Manhunter. So my thing is, those are my 3.
Yeah.
So my thing is that there's a lot of stuff that we can actually, and there's so much more that's in the movie. You got the Green Lantern Corps. You got the scene with the battles with man, human, and the gods and all that. It's so much stuff that's in this movie. So where we're going to get to this point, don't get me wrong. I want to see Darkseid and the Darkseid family. Don't get me wrong. I want to see the side. I want to see Big Barda. I want to see that. I want to see them on the other side of the boo tube. I want to see all that. But the thing with all that being said, you know, this movie is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And the significance about this movement is that we're bringing awareness and knowledge to the people that are so downgrading it. Everything is positive. There's a lot of us out there. And the good thing about this is all over the world. That's why I'm glad that, you know, the Snyder Cut, what they're doing. They're gathering everybody together to get us all on the panel. Everybody meet together and we do this. This is a great thing. You know, I'm glad that this is happening. So you get to meet everybody over the world and we all coming together because there's only one thing. We all have one thing in common. We are all Zack Snyder fans and we want this cut of the movie. That is the main thing. That is the focus. You shouldn't really gravitate to all the negativity because they just don't like Zack because everybody knows they're going to watch it too. So it's not that's going to be the issue. Let's get something that's going to be enjoyable because honestly, we need to know this story because I don't want to have this cliffhanger be here and we don't know what's going to happen. So, hey, well, we're going to get this off. We're going to close, everybody. Appreciate everybody on the panel. Myself, Steve, Ed, Rob, Drew, and Ethan. Hey, peace, mad love. The Knights of the Snyder Cut Roundtable. Episode 2 is coming to a close. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Hey, it is what it is, but hey, we got everything. And make sure you follow everybody on Twitter. And we up on out of here. All right, y'all. Peace.
All right, man. See you guys.